There's a moment we've all faced, the moment when we're standing in front of others, maybe in a room, maybe in our own homes, maybe just in our own heads, and that little voice whispers, what if I fail? What if they don't respect me? What if I'm not enough? That fear is so familiar, it can stop us in our tracks. We imagine that respect is earned by being flawless, by always getting it right, by never showing weakness. But the truth is, respect has very little to do with perfection and everything to do with how real and human we are willing to be. We've been conditioned to believe that if we hide our mistakes, if we cover up the cracks, we'll be stronger. Yet psychology shows us something profoundly different. It's often our willingness to admit when we're scared, when we're uncertain, when we've stumbled, that creates the deepest trust and the strongest bonds. The people we respect most are rarely the ones who never fall. They're the ones who fall and rise again with honesty and courage. When we're afraid of failing, we stand at a crossroads. One path is to armor up, to try to control every perception, to silence every doubt. The other path is riskier but far more rewarding, to let people see who we really are. And it's in those moments, when we lean into authenticity instead of hiding behind fear, that we begin to unlock the kind of respect that lasts. Because respect isn't about being untouchable. It's about being relatable. It isn't about commanding fear. It's about inspiring trust. And it begins the moment we choose to show up as ourselves, not as the version of ourselves we think the world wants to see. Fear of failure often keeps people from stepping into their authentic selves. And this is something most of us know far too well. Think about the moments where you've had a dream, an idea, or even just a thought about speaking up, and almost immediately your mind said, but what if you fail? What if they laugh? What if they don't take you seriously? That voice of fear can be so loud that it convinces us to stay small, to stay quiet, to stay hidden in the background of our own lives. And yet, what that fear really does is keep us from showing up as who we truly are. Failure has been given such a negative weight in our culture that it's no wonder people avoid it at all costs. From the time we're children, we're taught to get the answer right, to perform without mistakes, to aim for the gold star or the perfect grade. Somewhere along the way, we equate respect with perfection. We think that if people see our flaws, our missteps, or the times we fall short, they'll no longer see us as capable, strong, or worthy of admiration. But psychology reveals something very different. People respect not the person who has never failed, but the one who faces failure honestly, learns from it, and continues to move forward. Respect grows in the soil of courage, not in the illusion of flawlessness. When fear of failure holds us back, it doesn't just prevent us from trying new things. It prevents us from being ourselves. Imagine walking into a room where you feel like you have to prove yourself, where every word and every action is measured against the question of whether you'll succeed or fall short. In that space, you aren't free, you're performing. And people can sense that. They can feel when someone is hiding behind a mask of control and fear. What truly makes others respect you is not the mask, but the moment you let it drop, when you're willing to stand there and say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm here to try. That kind of honesty is powerful because it invites others to see their own reflection in you. There's a story many of us carry in silence. The story of a time we wanted something badly, but didn't go after it because the possibility of failing felt unbearable. Maybe it was applying for a job. Maybe it was asking someone for help. Maybe it was speaking up when we saw something wrong. Those moments stick with us because deep down we know that fear stole something valuable. And when fear steals enough times, we start to shrink. We start to believe that staying safe is the better option. That respect will come if we avoid risks, if we only step forward when we're absolutely certain of success. But ironically, it's the opposite. Respect is born when others see us willing to risk, willing to be vulnerable, willing to try even with the possibility of failure. Psychology has shown again and again that people connect more with authenticity than with polish. When someone admits their fears but still takes action, it creates a ripple effect. It tells everyone else in the room, you don't have to be perfect to be worthy of respect. In fact, you only have to be brave enough to be real. Think of the people you respect most in your life. chances are it's not because they've never made a mistake. It's because you've seen them make mistakes, own them, and rise again. You've seen them walk through fear instead of around it. That's where true respect begins to grow. But fear of failure tricks us into thinking that respect is conditional. It whispers that if we fall, people will lose faith in us. It tells us that one wrong step can erase every good thing we've done. And so we become obsessed with outcomes, constantly measuring ourselves against impossible standards. The truth is, people are not inspired by someone who never falters. They're inspired by someone who falters and still chooses to stand tall, who says, yes, I fell, but this is not the end of my story. When we allow ourselves to embrace failure as part of the human experience, we show others what it looks like to live with courage rather than fear. Every time we let the fear of failure dictate our choices, we miss an opportunity to build deeper respect. Not just from others, but from ourselves. There's a kind of self-respect that only comes from knowing you tried, from stepping into the arena, even when you weren't sure how it would turn out. That self-respect is contagious. Others see it. They feel it, and it makes them trust you more. It's not about pretending failure doesn't sting. It does. It's about refusing to let the sting decide who you are or what you're capable of. The greatest irony of all is that the very thing we're most afraid of, failing, is often the thing that creates the bridge to connection and respect. People don't respect us less for failing. They respect us more for how we respond to it. They respect us more for showing them that courage isn't about never falling. It's about what you choose to do when you do. And in that choice, when fear of failure could hold you back, but you step forward anyway, you begin to embody the kind of authenticity that no one can fake, and the kind of respect that no one can take away. Respect doesn't come from perfection, but from vulnerability and courage. That's something many of us forget, because for so long we've been taught the opposite. We've been told to chase perfection, to hold ourselves together no matter what, to never let others see the cracks. The world applauds success stories, polished images, carefully crafted reputations. But beneath all of that, what really moves people, what really earns their respect, isn't the image of someone who has everything figured out. It's the humanity of someone who is willing to say, here I am, imperfect and trying anyway. Perfection has a way of making us distant. When we try to live as though mistakes don't touch us, we end up creating walls between ourselves and others. We hide behind our achievements, our titles, or the masks we wear in public. And while that might impress people for a moment, it doesn't last. Because people don't connect with flawless. They connect with real. Vulnerability is what allows others to see themselves in us. Courage is what shows them we're willing to risk being seen as we are, not as we wish to appear. That combination is what creates respect that's deeper than admiration. It creates respect that's built on trust. Think about the people you hold in the highest regard. Chances are, it's not because they were perfect. It's probably because you saw them face something hard with honesty. You saw them admit when they were wrong or take responsibility for something that didn't go as planned. You saw them choose courage when it would have been easier to protect themselves. And in that moment, they became more than just impressive. They became relatable. Respect doesn't stick when it's built on a perfect image. It sticks when it's built on authenticity. Vulnerability often feels terrifying because it means exposing the parts of ourselves that we're afraid others might judge. It means admitting that we don't always have control, that we make mistakes, that we sometimes fall short, and yet those are the exact things that make us human. When we allow people to see us without the armor, we give them permission to take off their own armor too. There's a quiet power in that exchange. It's not about being weak. It's about being strong enough to show your true self. Respect grows in those spaces because respect is never just about achievement. It's about connection. Courage doesn't always show up in big, dramatic ways. Sometimes it's in the small choices, speaking up in a meeting even when you're not sure your idea will be accepted, apologizing when you've hurt someone even though your pride wants to stay silent, asking for help when you'd rather pretend you can handle it all alone. These acts of courage may not look like much from the outside, but they are the moments that build the deepest kind of respect. People remember those choices. They remember how it felt to see someone put honesty before pride or connection before ego. Perfection, on the other hand, can be exhausting to maintain. It's a performance with no end, and people eventually see through it. When we try to project perfection, what we're really doing is hiding the very qualities that make us worthy of respect. Vulnerability takes the opposite approach. It doesn't hide, it reveals. And while revealing ourselves feels risky, it's also the only way people can know us, the real us. Without that, respect remains shallow, built on what people think we are, not who we truly are. There is also a freedom that comes with choosing vulnerability and courage over perfection. When you stop trying to be flawless, you create space to actually live, to take risks, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. You stop measuring your worth by how untouchable you look and start valuing yourself for how authentically you show up. That shift not only changes the way others see you, it changes the way you see yourself. Self-respect grows in the same soil as the respect of others. It grows in honesty, in courage, in the willingness to be imperfect and still worthy. The paradox is this: we often think people respect us because of our strength, but they usually respect us because of our humanity. It takes strength to appear strong, but it takes even more strength to admit when you're struggling. It takes courage to look someone in the eye and say, "I don't know," or "I need help," or "I made a mistake." Those moments might feel uncomfortable, but they are also the very moments that people remember, the ones that earn their trust and admiration in ways that flawless images never could. When we think of respect, we often imagine it as something we have to demand or prove. But respect doesn't respond to demands, it responds to authenticity. Vulnerability and courage show people that you're willing to take risks for the sake of honesty, that you care enough to be real instead of impressive. And when people see that, they don't just admire you, they respect you. They see you as someone who isn't afraid to live truthfully, someone who values connection over control, someone who is strong enough to be human. Psychology teaches us that connection is rooted in how we show up, not just what we achieve. We spend so much of our lives believing that if we just work harder, climb higher, or prove ourselves enough, people will respect us. We imagine that the diplomas on the wall, the numbers in the bank account, the titles on our business card, or even the image we curate for the world will somehow be the reason people value us. But over and over again, research and experience remind us that what truly matters is not the resume we carry, but the presence we bring. Respect doesn't flow from achievement alone. It flows from how we treat people, how we make them feel, and how authentically we engage with them in the moments that matter most. Think about the last time someone made you feel seen. Maybe it was a teacher who looked you in the eye and told you that you had potential. Maybe it was a friend who listened when you were struggling instead of offering quick advice. Or maybe it was a colleague who admitted they didn't have all the answers, but still invited you to figure it out together. Those moments had very little to do with achievement and everything to do with presence. They were about showing up, about being fully there, about caring enough to put connection first. Psychology tells us that human beings are wired for belonging, for acceptance, for trust. And none of those things are created by lists of accomplishments. They're created in the quality of our presence. So often, though we confuse achievement with worth, we imagine that if we just get one more win, we'll finally earn the respect of the people around us. And while success can open doors, it doesn't guarantee connection. You can walk into a room with all the accolades in the world, but if you carry arrogance, distance, or indifference, people won't remember your accomplishments. They'll remember how you made them feel. Respect lingers in memory not because someone was the smartest or the most successful, but because they showed up with humility, kindness, and authenticity. Showing up doesn't mean having it all together. It means being present in your interactions, being willing to listen, being brave enough to show who you really are instead of hiding behind what you've done. Achievements can impress, but presence inspires. Achievements can make people notice you, but presence makes them respect you. And presence is something you don't need a degree or a promotion to offer. It's something available to every one of us in every single moment. There is a concept in psychology called emotional attunement. It's the ability to tune in to the emotional state of another person, to notice when they're anxious, when they're joyful, when they're withdrawn, and to respond with empathy instead of judgment. People don't respect you more because you got the highest score or the biggest paycheck. They respect you because you notice them, because you care enough to attune to their world. Respect grows in relationships where people feel recognized and valued. And those are not achievements you can put on paper. They're the results of how you choose to show up in the lives of others. What's powerful about this truth is that it levels the playing field. Not everyone will become a CEO or win awards or have their name in the spotlight, but everyone has the ability to be fully present, to bring their authentic selves to the table, and to create respect through connection. A parent who sits on the floor to listen to their child's story earns respect in that child's heart. A manager who admits when they're uncertain but chooses transparency earns respect from their team. A friend who chooses to stay during someone's lowest moment earns respect that lasts a lifetime. These acts have nothing to do with status and everything to do with presence. And yet it can be hard to let go of the idea that achievements define us. Society celebrates outcomes, medals, numbers, results. It rarely celebrates the quiet moments of connection. But when you think back on the people who truly impacted you, chances are it wasn't because they were perfect or endlessly successful. It was because they showed up for you. They stood beside you in your mess. They gave you their time, their attention, their presence. And in those moments, they became more than accomplished. They became respected. Respect rooted in connection also tends to last longer than respect rooted in achievement. Achievements fade. Titles change. Success is fleeting. But the memory of how someone made you feel endures. You might forget the exact details of someone's achievements, but you rarely forget the way they made you feel seen, heard, or valued. That's why showing up matters so much more than what you've accomplished. Presence creates a kind of legacy that no RA Sume ever could. Showing up authentically also means letting people see more than just your victories. It means being honest about your struggles, being open about your fears, and being willing to admit when things aren't perfect. This kind of presence builds trust because it tells people, I don't just want you to see the polished version of me. I want you to see me. And when people feel trusted with that kind of honesty, they return it with respect. So when psychology reminds us that connection is rooted in how we show up, it's really a call to shift our focus. It's a reminder that the most powerful thing we can offer isn't our list of achievements, but our authentic presence. It's the way we listen, the way we respond, the way we choose to show up in the lives of others. Respect isn't earned by hiding behind success. It's earned by being real in the moments that matter. The moments we fear being judged are the very moments that can build deeper respect. It feels almost backwards, doesn't it? We spend so much of our lives trying to avoid judgment, shaping ourselves to be more acceptable, to fit in, to avoid saying or doing something that might invite criticism. We think that if we carefully control every impression, people will admire us more. Yet, over and over, psychology shows us that it's actually when we step into those uncomfortable spaces, when we risk being misunderstood or criticized, that we often earn the deepest respect from others. Because respect isn't born from flawless presentation, it's born from authenticity and courage. Judgment is one of the most powerful fears that keeps people from showing up fully. It's the fear that if people see who we really are, they'll find us lacking. It's the fear that our mistakes, our opinions, or even our vulnerabilities will make us less in the eyes of others. But here's the paradox: hiding from judgment often makes people respect us less, not more. When we try too hard to avoid criticism, we end up diluting our voice, shrinking our presence, and cutting off the parts of ourselves that make us real. People don't respect a watered-down version of someone. They respect the raw, true version, even if they don't always agree with it. Think about the leaders, teachers, or even friends who have earned your deepest respect. Were they the ones who always played it safe, never spoke up, never risked being disliked? Or were they the ones who dared to be honest, who stood up for something even when it wasn't popular, who showed their humanity even when it invited judgment. Chances are, it's the latter. We admire people who risk judgment because it reminds us of what courage looks like. It shows us that respect doesn't require universal approval. It requires integrity. When we're afraid of judgment, we often censor ourselves. We hold back our true thoughts, our real feelings, our authentic selves. We trade connection for safety, but people can sense that holding back. They can feel when someone is speaking from a place of fear instead of truth. And while that may protect us from criticism in the short term, it doesn't create respect in the long term.